and welcome to Day 3 of the European Nations Poker Challenge here in the stunning city of St. Petersburg. I'm Keith Coycarp-Allen, and I'm here with poker professional Mr. Gary Choirboy Jones, who's not here, he's gone shopping. Shopping is the second most popular activity in St. Petersburg. Popular purchases include caviar, furry Russian hats, and those big fat dolls full of little fat dolls that everybody hates. There are plenty of bargains to be had in St. Petersburg's picturesque and charmingly violent street market, where for the price of all your money, you can actually leave without getting shot. The laws in Russia limit gambling and drinking to a meager 24 hours a day. This is a very popular law amongst drinking gamblers and politicians. Russian people are extremely friendly, even when sober. Many of them will offer to strip off and dive into the nearest freezing cold canal if they think it will get a laugh. However, you should beware of seedy-looking street vendors selling jars of mud wrapped in newspaper. This is not caviar, it's mud, and it's not even good mud. But I digress. We're not here for the shopping, we're here for the poker. The European Nations Poker Challenge is held over a 4-day period. Teams consist of 6 players representing England, Sweden, Scotland, Russia, Finland, Ukraine, and the Baltic states. This is the first televised tournament to feature not only Texas Hold'em, but also 7-card stud, Omaha, and high-low variations thereof. Please don't panic. Everything will be explained in due course.
And this is how the points work. First gets 50, second gets 44, third gets 40, fourth gets 36, fifth 32, sixth 28, seventh 24, eighth 20, and if you come 9th down to 16th, you get 16 down to 2.
So here we are back at the Italian club. Gary, tell us what's going on.
Well, yesterday we had the 7-card stud final, with Murray and Lally coming first and second for England. So let's have a look at the leaderboard.
Now, I should remind viewers that this is a poker team challenge. The longer a player stays in the game, the more points they earn for their team. The team with the most points after the final day's play wins the tournament. So, Gary, what's happening today?
Well, today we'll be playing 7-card stud high-low, alternating with Omaha high-low. A bit of a first for televised poker. Let's hand over to poker pro Dave Coolclough, who'll tell us what it's all about.
Today's game at the European Nations Poker Challenge is 7-card stud. Every player who wants to be dealt a hand has to put an initial ante into the pot. The dealer will then deal 2 face-down cards to each player and 1 up card to each player. But when the tournament's actually being played, you'll see that these 2 cards are face down. This player will make a bet of some description at this stage. He might well bet a pot. This player would then have to call or pass his hand. He might well call. So each player would call this bet, and the dealer would then deal another card. We'll have the round of betting again. The dealer will then deal a 5th card to each player. There'll be another round of betting here, and the dealer will deal a 6th card, again face up. There'll be a round of betting, and then the final card is dealt face down to each player. And again, this will then be another round of betting. This is the final round of betting. Omaha high-low. Just like Hold'em, this is a game where we put blinds in, not antes. So a button dictates who actually puts the blinds in, and it'll be like a small blind and a big blind that will go into the pot. The dealer then deals 4 cards to each player, as opposed to 2 cards in Hold'em. If this player wants to call the hand, he must match the 2 chips that are already in the pot, and so on. And each player would have the option of raising, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll say that all 4 players call. So we'll have a pot with 8 chips in. As per Hold'em and Omaha High, the dealer will then deal a flop. Omaha High-Low, though, as you might have guessed, is a game where the pot is eventually split into 2, and one player will take half with the best high hand, and one player will take half with the best low hand. Now, the low hand must be an 8 low or lower.
So let's have a look at the ranking of the poker hands. starts off with a royal flush, that's 10 to ace of the same suit. Then a straight flush, which is 5 cards in a row, all of the same suit. Then it's 4 of a kind, 4 of the same number. Full house, 3 of one and 2 of another. A flush, 5 cards of the same suit. A straight, 5 cards in a row. 3 of a kind, that's 3 of the same number. Then it's 2 pairs, 2 of one number and 2 of another. 1 pair, which is what it says, and high card. When you miss everything else, just the high card plays.
Eat your heart out, Michelangelo. Magnificent painting. I presume these are the dealers. There you go.
Yes, these are the lovely dealers of the Italian club. You definitely want those ladies dealing to you.
As opposed to...
Yes, the one person you don't want. The one person you don't want dealing to you is Sergei Pevsner. And the reason is, he can make anything he likes come out of just 4 cards.
Pair of kings there. Oh. Incredible.
I fancy his chances in this tournament. So here they are, taking their seats for this day 3 of the European Nations Poker Challenge. Let's have a look at some of the faces that will be playing today. As we can see from this Russian player, Alexander Kuzmin, poker can be a very tiring game.
That's not poker, Gary, that's probably the vodka.
It's not very often you see someone playing in their sleep at this level.
Maybe it's just really, really good. Ah, 4 of a kind, all of them teeth.
And here is Alexander Ubakovsky, sucking his thumb.
Missing his mother. I don't believe it. The great Murray there.
Receiving a massage, one of the perks of playing abroad.
I think these are Scottish boys, judging by the crisp linen shirts.
There's Valeri, a man of many moods.
Most of them loud.
Oh dear, he's being sent to the sin bin.
No, he's being sent to the sin bin, Gary. What exactly does that mean?
Well, if a player behaves contrary to the rules of the tournament, he can be excluded from the table for 20 minutes.
And he also still has to put the ante in, though, while he's away?
Yeah, he still has to post the blinds, so it's still going to cost him while he's away.
Right.
It's very bad if you're very short in chips.
And doesn't do the team a lot of good, I should imagine.
Well, Kafelnikov here, he's been told to take as long as he can on every hand, just to make sure that Valeri doesn't miss many hands.
I see. Team tactics.
Yes.
Right.
One of the advantages of the team play.
Crisp Scottish shirt. Finland.
There's Doolally Lally. He's pulled. He's got all the chat.
knows that I'm reliable, not it.
Yeah, she's looking after me here.
Yes.
Yeah, the spying for my wife.
England aren't doing too bad today, actually. Rick's got a lot of chips. I've got more than average, and Murray's still in again for the 3rd day on the trot, so hopefully one of the 3 of us will get through the final. The Swedes are struggling, which is obviously good for us, so at the moment it's looking good.
Day 3 is not very good at all for Sweden. We might be saved as the Russians are strong today.
I think we are very happy that 3 Russians will be in final table, but our captain is out, but doesn't matter. I think my character is very difficult, and sometimes I can scream as they give me penalty.
We had a bad day yesterday. We've fallen a bit off the pace at the 4th position, but Sweden are not having such a good day today, so maybe we can catch up if 2 or 3 of our players can get into final tonight.
No, I started off very, very slowly. We started with 7,000 chips each, and I was down to 3,000 after the first couple of hours. I just hung in there and won a hand, won another hand, and I think I'm chip leading. I think I've got 90,000, so I think I'm chip leader at the moment. But anything can happen in this game. The team's done wonderful. We've placed 3 times in this. We've got 2 in the final. 1 was 11th, I think. So the way things are going, I think it's going to be a great day tomorrow. There's going to be 3 or 4 teams in with a right good chance of winning. We're all amateurs playing against professionals. It doesn't matter if we win or lose, it doesn't really matter.
So that was some of the thoughts of the players just approaching the final table of this, the European Nations Poker Challenge Day 3, where we'll be playing 2 games, 7-card stud high-low and Omaha high-low. And now we're down to the final 8. We'll be joining the action right after this break.
And welcome back to the latter stages of the qualifying for the final table, where the Russians are looking pretty strong here, Gary, I think.
Yes, they've had a very good Day 3, and they're going to have a number of the players actually going into the final, including that man, Yevgeny Kafelnikov. So let's have a look at the final players. Here's Valeri from Team Russia.
Mr. Loud. Stuart Jack Carnegie, Team Scotland. He of the best pressed shirt.
And Dave El Blonde Kulklov from Team England.
Yevgeny Kafelnikov, Team Russia.
Yakov from Team Ukraine.
Sorry, Yakov, who is that? Vladimir Troyanovsky, Team Russia.
Richard Gladding from Team England.
David McGeeky representing Team Scotland.
Unfortunately for Team England, they got off to a very bad start in the final, with Dave Kulklov exiting early, knocked out by his fellow teammate Richard Gladding. And this is how it happened. Dave Kulklov with 2 deuces and a 5 as his starting 3 cards was compelled to go all in with his short chips. Richard Gladding with pocket queens was in there, and Valeri with ace-2-3. Valeri ends up making a low with a 7. Pocket queens and 10s for Richard ends up taking the high, and David ends up with none of it. So split pot between Richard and Valeri, and Dave Kulklov ends up with nothing.
Omaha is, I should think, probably our strongest game. It's definitely my strongest game, so I'm hoping for a good day tomorrow.
So here we are with the last 7 players. The game, 7 cards stud high-low.
Still 3 Russians at the table, Gary. They look very strong.
Yeah, they've had a very good Day 3 so far. Let's see if they can continue.
Now each player's up card is ringed in red, as you can see. So Valeri's up card is an ace. Yakov's is a 5. And Evgeny has a 10 of spades. Pocket 10s for Stuart there.
3 nice low cards, 3, 5, 6 of diamonds for Richard. Moved all in there from Valeri. Stuart with pocket 10s in front for the high at the moment. And we've already had some action. Called by Rick from the force bring-in. Raise all in from Valeri. And then Yakov has decided to protect his pocket 9s with a big pot re-raise. Now a bit of a decision up to Rocky Rick from England. He's got 3, 5, 6 of diamonds, which is actually a very good,
if he's
low
going
hand.
low.
But it's not great for a high hand unless he can catch a 4th diamond. Also, all he can see of Yakov's hand is the 5 that's up. So he might think that Yakov's actually got 3 better low cards than him. So the big thing with high-low is you want to be drawing very strong to one end or the other. And he hasn't really got strong enough at either end. Really wants an ace to be playing high-low 7-card stud at this point. So, although it is a bit of a tough decision, because it looks very pretty, that 3, 5, 6 of diamonds, he's probably going to have to drop this, because it's going to cost him all his chips. If he knew that Yakov only had a pair of 9s, he might decide to gamble. But he doesn't have the benefit of our under-table camp. No, he decides to release, and it's going to be heads up, and Valeri really needs to win this, as he's all in. He's got ace-deuce-9, Valeri, against the pocket 9s of Yakov. Catches a good card on the 4th card for Valeri. Catches a spade draw and a 3rd low. A 4th spade. Needs to catch a spade, and then he's going to be in very good shape. Pocket queens. Puts him in front. He's now going to scoop the pot, unless Yakov can improve. And he doesn't. So pocket queen stays in. Nice hand for Valeri. He needed to catch that one, otherwise he'd have been out in 7th place. Had a chance at a spade, an ace or a queen, and caught a queen on the 6th card. That's going to hurt Yakov.
It's actually being rather withdrawn.
Yes, Valeri, you'd have expected to jump up and punch the air, but he's too busy stacking his chips at the moment, and with a little smug grin there. I think he knows he got a little bit lucky. So with the 7 stud high-low, everyone antes. After putting the 2.
Remember, each player's up card is ringed in red.
Rick just pointing out there that the dealer didn't give him a last card. Action to Valeri. He comes in with a big bet. Straight in for a bet of the pot. Very good draw to the low here for Yakov. Ace deuce 3. I think we're going to see him play this. The question is, does he want a flat call or is he going to raise? No, just a flat call. So it's Valeri and Yakov. Dave McGeehee with a decision. 8-7-6. So that's 3 cards to the 8 low draw, as well as potential straight. But he knows an 8 low's not usually good enough. If someone else makes a low, it'll probably be better than his, so he decides to pass. And we're going to take this 2-handed. And with a 4th card and very few chips left for Valeri, the chips go all in, and it's going to be on the backs between these two. Valeri needing to win this one yet again, or he's out. Let's see what they had. Just sorting out the chips. Oh, Valeri there with double ace deuce 6, and Yakov with double ace deuce 3. Neck and neck, still anyone's game. Both drawing to both a high and a low here. That's a good card for Valeri. He catches aces and 6s. He's now going to double up, unless Yakov can catch a 9 or a jack on the river. Of course, the final ace not available. Oh, aces and 9s. 2 pairs for Yakov, beats aces and 6s for Valeri. And he
Might see a
is
bit
going
of
to be out in
shouting here,
7th.
Gary, I think.
Yes.
With me, I think I 4 times or 5 times made all in, but all the time I had very good hands, in my opinion, because but I was really unlucky. Because my opponents called me with disgusting hands, I think, and beat me. Anyway, I'm very happy for today's final table, and I think my two friends will make something to get big points for our team.
So let's see if the next player out can have a more graceful exit than Valeri. He slammed the table on his way out there.
I think it's still vibrating.
Yes. To his name. Brought in from Stuart Carnegie there. With the 3 showing. He's brought it in for what looks like 11,000. Yakov goes back to playing with his chips. Vladimir with pocket jacks has gone all in for 18,000. I don't think that's going to be enough to scare off Stuart. David's still left in the pot. He knows, of course, being the teammate of Stuart, that they probably wouldn't bet against each other if he decides to call Vladimir. But he decides he doesn't have enough to play. And it's going to be seen 2-handed. It's Stuart Carnegie from Scotland versus Vladimir from Russia. Vladimir in front at the moment with pocket jacks. Stuart drawing both to a king to improve for the high and looking for 5 cards for a low. 8 keeps him on the road. He's now got 4 cards to a low. He needs to catch a small card to make a low and be guaranteed half the pot.
Oh, no.
No, he's made pair of 3s. He now needs to make 2 pairs or a low. Ace gives him the low, so he gets half the pot. And Vladimir gets to stay in with his 2 pairs, jacks and 4s. Even if Stuart had a quarter high card on the end to make a bigger pair, it wouldn't have been enough, of course, for Vladimir's 2 pairs. Would have took the pot anyway. And as it happens, catching a low was a much better result for Stuart, because that way he gets half the pot.
Can you spot any direct team tactics at play here, Gary?
We haven't seen much of it so far in this final. The big problem with this one, of course, is the cards are much more important than the betting pattern. You actually need to have a hand to play here, so you won't see the Russians being able to take full advantage of the fact they have 3 players, or at least had 3 players in the final. Of course, now they've lost Valeri, they're down to 2. So
when we saw the Swedes on day 1, I mean, there was definitely team playing going on there, wasn't there?
Yes, they had a very good team strategy lined up.
Should just remind the viewers at home, Gary, that a low hand has to be 8 or lower.
Yes, you basically have 5 cards that make a hand 8 or worse. So, of course, a straight does actually still count as a low. So if you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, you've got both a low hand for a 7 low.
And a straight for the high hand.
Yeah, which is a very powerful hand. This one's brewing up to be a good hand. We've got pocket queens for Yevgeny. And he's also got the low card, which is the 3, so he's brought it in for 12,000. And people are probably going to think he's got 3 low cards down there and not the pocket queens. And that decision is going through Yakov's mind, because he's got a very powerful low card. He's low draw. He's got ace, deuce, 6. So he's called. Vladimir out. Richard out. Pocket 8's no good in this game. All in from David McGeegee. He's got ace, 5, 6, all of the same suit, so he's drawing both to a low and a nice high hand if he can catch another couple of spades. Yevgeny trying to go all in, but the all-in move from David wasn't enough to reopen the betting, so he calls, and so does Yakov. And we're going to get to see the 4th card. Check from Yakov. Yevgeny decides, my pocket queens are probably winning. I'm not going to pass for what's left, so he sticks his chips in. About 15,000. Yakov's not going to pass, so he's got 4 to a low. He's still drawing very live. So it's going to be on the backs.
Get them primed up, please.
And this one will go for all 7 cards. Both David McGeegee all in, as well as Yevgeny Kafelnikov. Yevgeny with pocket queens, king 3.
Looking good for the low hand there.
Yeah, it's a good draw at the moment, ace, deuce, 5, 6. Of course, he does need to catch another card 8 or lower, which doesn't pair him to qualify for a low, and that's good enough. He's now got the low card, and he's got half of the pot already pretty well locked up. And now he's also drawing to the high with pocket 4s. So he could scoop if he makes a second pair and no one else does. That's a great card. He's made 4s and deuces. That's going to see the end of Yevgeny Kafelnikov and David McGeegee. So a complete scoop for Yakov there, and he's going to knock out 2 players in 1 and win a very big pot. And that's going to be good for the Ukraine.
He's looking very strong, isn't he, this single Ukraine?
Yeah, it's a very good position to be in now. Good chips.
Russians down to 1 man.
Yep,
Scots
as are the
down
Scots.
to 1, yep.
Yeah, so now it's still anyone's game.
Yeah, I mean, tomorrow it's going to be a case that anyone can win it. You know, the Swedes ran away with it the first day, and you know they've had a couple of poor days, and really I think anybody can win it tomorrow, just about. Except the Baltic states.
So down to 4. We've got a representative from the Ukraine, from Russia, England and Scotland still left in. Notable by their absence, of course, Sweden didn't get a man to the final. After a very good first day, they've started to drop back in the team situation. Still in 7-card stud. Low card to bring in, and that's Richard. Brings it in for the minimum, which is 2,000.
For the viewers at home, I should remind you that the red ring card is the up card for each player.
Small raise from Vladimir, takes the pot. Him having the ace showing is very powerful card in 7 stud high-low.
Well, I think our Scottish friend's just about to go all in, isn't he?
Yeah, he's starting to look a little low, poor Stuart. as is Richard. It's pretty well hanging on in their stage at the moment for all three of the boys, apart from the Yakov from the Ukraine. He's got this one well and truly dominated.
But it's a team game.
Not that much team tactics can be used, of course, when there's just the one from each team left. So on to the next hand. 6-8 10 of hearts there for Yakov. The 3, the up card for Richard yet again. Looks like he's going to have to bring this one in.
I think whatever Stewart does here, Gary, is going to be dictated by his lack of chips on his cards.
He is down to only 11,000 and he's decided this is the time to make a stand. Pocket 7s. That's enough for him. He puts his chips in. Might get a caller from Yakov here with the 3 hearts in his hand. Might decide to gamble with him. He's also got 2 cards towards making a low. And it is only 11,000 and he really can afford it. The other 2 boys sitting on about 25,000 each. They can afford to leave these 2 to fight it out and hopefully move up the points if we lose Stewart. This is the hand he needs to win. And if he does, it'll give him 32,000, which will put him back in the game and in a better spot than the other 2 boys. So all to play for and still in front. No help there for Stewart. 9 makes a straight draw for Yakov. Of course, he needs one of the 7s, which is in Stewart's hand. Pocket 6s now for Yakov. 4 clubs for Stewart. Oh, 3 6s for Yakov. Needs a club or a 7 or Stewart's... Oh, he catches a club. And no pair for Yakov. And Stewart's going to double up with a flush. Started off with a pair of 7s, ended up with a flush. Nice way to get the chips.
That's the Team Scotland in the background there, celebrating.
Yeah, puts him in a nice position now, Stewart, compared to the other 2. They're now the ones under pressure with about 25,000. Yakov still smiling, he can afford it. He's got the chips.
And a very large watch.
Still in 7 card stud. Let's see if Richard doesn't get the low card this time. Nope, it's the deuce from Vladimir. So he opens for 2,000. He has the choice. It can be anywhere from 2 up to the size of the pot. Oh, we've got a hand brewing here. 3 aces for Richard. That's what we call a wire up. 3 of a kind.
No, I don't think he'll go all in, will he, if that ace is showing, because you want to keep the others interested.
It's going to look very, very fishy if he just flat calls the 2 with the chips that he's got. He's trying to decide how to play it. He's decided to take a chance. He's just flat called. He's going to get a customer in Yakov, I believe, with the pocket kings. And with the amount of chips that Richard's got left, I don't think it would have mattered how Richard plays this. He's probably going to get the chips. I think the last card Richard actually wants to see now is the 4th ace. It might scare off his customer. He hasn't hit the 4th ace. It's a good card for Richard. Ace 4 looks like he's still 4 cards to a low. Probably going to keep Yakov in there with his pocket kings. The question is, how much does he want to bet to keep him in? Looks like he wants to keep it nice and low. 7,000 from Richard.
And a pair of Ray-Bans very nearly.
I don't think that's going to scare off Yakov. It may well get rid of Vladimir now, as he hasn't improved. Yep, Yakov calls. Vladimir decides to exit this party. 5th card coming out. The dealer just brings it in so they can see. And kings and 7s now for Yakov. That gives him some chances if he can catch a king or 7 to make a full house. Richard's moved all in for his last chips. It's about 16,000. Yakov's announced call, and he's not going to like this. Still chances for Yakov. A king or 7 could well make Richard regret slow playing this hand. Richard needs to fill up to make a full house to be sure of victory. That's no good. Still a king or 7 for Yakov. And it's an 8. So Richard's going to double up. It's a nice pot to win. That's going to put him in very good shape now. And Yakov's lost the last 2 pots he's played, so his chip lead's dwindling back. And the rest of the field are catching him up.
And if you join us after the break, we'll find out whether or not they actually do.
So welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. We're down to 4. We've got a representative from Russia, England, Scotland and the Ukraine.
It's a banter-free zone at the moment, Gary. Very quiet table.
There's a reason for that. Both the gentleman from the Ukraine, Yakov, and Vladimir from Russia don't speak a word of English, so they're not going to be able to have much table talk with the other two, as I don't think they speak much Russian. So still in the 7-card stud round. They play for half an hour at this game before they move over to the Omaha, and all the action so far at the final table has been in that first half hour. So next hand, Richard to bring in again. He's been very unlucky, costing him 2,000 almost every hand with the force bring in. And Stuart's raised the pot, and that's why he's got queens with an ace.
Vladimir doing a very good impression of the thinker there.
Yeah, the philosopher. Looks like he's got a bit of a decision. 3 diamonds, 6-7 king.
Does he want to chase a flush? No.
Trying to decide whether to make a stand with his hand. He knows he's going to have to sooner or later. I don't think Richard's going to be joining in. Not with 3-4-9. And that means he's going to pass, showing the rail what he's mucking here. Richard passes, and that one goes to Stuart, who almost looks pleased. Quick sip of wine. How very civilised. Stuart, of course, the team captain for Scotland. Doing his country proud, as did Murray Brown yesterday for Team England. Running ante at the moment 2,000, that makes 8,000 in the middle, and once again, poor Richard gets the force bring in with the low card. He must be feeling like it's he's upset one of the Russian dealers here. Keeps on getting the low card, which means he keeps on having to put the 2,000 in. Making a stand here, Vladimir. 3 big cards, ace, king, jack. Doesn't look like he's playing high-low. He raises the pot.
No takers, then.
Nope, and he picks up the blinds. Or rather the antes, as it is in 7-card stud. After doubling it up not long ago, Richard, he just keeps on having to put in that extra 2,000 every hand. It's almost like he's anteing twice. He'll be happy to see the Omaha around, I can tell you that.
Well, it should be fairly soon, I think.
Yeah, we have had quite a bit of action here at the final table. All 7-card stud. And he's just got a little bit of reprieve, as Vladimir's had the force bring in with his 4 diamonds up. And Richard decides to volunteer chips into this one with a raise of 10,000.
Vladimir's virtually got the same hand as he had before.
Yeah, 3 diamonds, 2 low cards, but not enough. And Richard takes it down with pocket jacks and an ace showing. Probably have got more likely got a customer if he'd have had a jack showing rather than the ace. But Richard's happy to win that one. Stuart there with the ace showing. 8, 9, 10, 2 spades. Straight's not really the kind of hand you want to chase in 7 stud high-low. Looking like a raise here from Stuart. Yep, he raises the pot. The 2,000 force bring in from Yakov. And another raise takes the pot. Stuart showing the power of the ace there. Still anyone's game. Yakov's commanding position seems to have dwindled a little.
Yeah, he's gone quiet, hasn't he?
Yeah, hasn't seemed to be able to pick up a decent hand. Not much there for Vladimir. But a nice hand here for Yakov. And for Richard. He's got pocket jacks. Just a flat call there from Yakov. Wants to see card 4 for cheap. Let's see what Richard wants to do. Does he want to protect his pocket jacks? Or does he want to make sure that Yakov doesn't catch a nice small card to go with his 3 diamonds? Difficult decision. He could even muck the hand if he doesn't want to play. All the options going through his mind here. Yeah, he decides to release. Doesn't need to get involved right now, Richard. I think that's a very wise decision there from him. 3 low cards, ace, 3, 7 and a jack, but no pair. And there's Yakov, picked up pocket 7s. Well, a pair of 7s.
16.
Well, I think the fact that one's hidden would always make it pocket anyway, because nobody else knows, do they? I'm with you on this, Gary.
So a bet there from Stuart, and I think he's going to get a customer from Yakov. Stuart relying on the power of the ace to win him the pot, but what he doesn't know is Yakov's made a pair of 7s. It's gambling time for Stuart. He's still got plenty of chances. He can catch a couple of low cards to make the low. A jack or an ace, of course, would put him in front with jacks or aces, depending which one he catches. 3 cards to come, and Stuart needs to improve, otherwise he's going to be out in 4th. 9, no help for him. Could have done with catching a small card there. Like the deuce. Now he's got a low draw and a high draw. Still got every chance. Deuce, no good. And he's going to be out in 4th place, no matter what the last card is for Yakov. Pocket 7s takes the hand, and our Scottish team captain has done them proud.
Without playing a hand of Omaha.
Yeah, not in the finals. We didn't get there.
I just didn't get cards early on in the final, and I ran into a big hand where Valeri had aces. I had ace 4, 5, 5 suited. No, that was what crippled me. I went right down, but I come back again, and you got to gamble a little bit. Yeah, I think it's going to be 4-5 horse race tomorrow. It's going to be a great day tomorrow.
So we're down to 3. And the game's changed. We've gone from 7 stud high-low to Omaha high-low.
Poor Stuart.
Yes, poor Stuart. He waited all this time and didn't quite get to the Omaha stage. Blinds now 3,000 and 6,000. And chips are a very big advantage in this particular variant of poker because you can afford to gamble a bit more when the others can't. So, with all of these chips, you can take a chance. And you can keep the pressure on very nicely with the chips that Yakov's got. Especially with the other 2 not wanting to do anything stupid to lose points for their team. A small raise there from Yakov on the button. Makes it 12,000 to play, just doubling the big blind. Vladimir not interested. Just 6,000 more to Richard. And that's an okay high-low hand. For just 6,000 more. He's probably going to see the flop with this. Yeah, 25,000 in the middle. And we're going to get to see our first Omaha high-low flop. So just like 7 card stud, in order to qualify for a low, it must be 8 or worse. So at the moment, no one's got a low because they've got to use 2 cards in their own hand and 3 from the middle. And the queen isn't good enough for a low card. So no one can have one right now. Up to Richard. I think if he's going to play this hand on this flop, he should bet it. He's checked, which to me means he's probably not going to want to play.
Got 2 pair there, isn't he?
No, he's only got 1 pair because he can only use 2 cards from his own hand and 3 from the flop. So he's using the pair of 5s at the moment. He's got the 4 on the board, but he can't use that and his pair of 5s.
I knew that, Gary. Just as the audience at home know.
Yeah, just explaining for them there. Of course, Yakov with top set makes a bet, and Richard decides to release. He actually had the second best low draw there possible with the ace-5. I don't know if I'd have wanted to play that or not. Definitely a chance for him to take a stand if he wanted to gamble. Looks like he's playing the waiting game, hoping that Vladimir's going to get knocked out before him. Me, I probably would have gambled, and that's why I'm not in the team.
And also, Murray doesn't like you, he told me.
Richard to play. He's got ace-3 for a low and an ace-king for high. He's raising the pot, I think. 6 with 15,000, 21,000 to play. Vladimir's not got much of a high-low hand there. But quite a good Omaha hand here, Yakov. Double suited, ace-queen of hearts with a jack-7 of clubs and an ace-7 for the low. So with his chips, he can afford to put the 21 in the middle. Only 18,000 more. And we're going to get to see a flop. This is a hand that Richard really needs to win, or at least get his money back.
And Vladimir really wants him to lose.
So do the other teams. I think the English are actually in a very good spot at the moment, so they'll be happy to see Richard go out. That's a good flop for Richard. He's got the ace-3 for the low, so he's actually got the low pretty well locked up, bar an ace or a 3. Or rather, just the 3's the only card that can counterfeit his low. So it's going to be hard for him to lose at least half of this pot. But he is losing for the high at the moment to pocket 7, well, to a pair of 7s for Yakov. So the last of Richard's chips go in the middle. It's on their backs. And Richard just saying he wants to see a king, because then he'd have a pair of kings for the high, as well as his ace-3 for the low. And he'd scoop and get the lot. That's a bad card for Richard. He needs a 5 now to scoop, and no 3. There's his king that he asked for before. Consolation prize. He ends up with kings and 7s for the high, but 3 7s takes the high, and Richard takes the low with ace-2, 3, 4, 7. You can use 2 cards for the high and a different 2 cards for your low hand. So although he'd be using the ace-king with the kings and 7s for his high hand, he'd be using the ace-3 for his low hand, ace-2, 3, 4, 7. That's Richard's hand. So just to clarify that one. But remember, you can only ever use 2 cards in your hand for either the high or the low. You can't use 3 or 4. On to the next hand.
Which, after a bottle of scotch, can get a bit confusing, I've noticed.
Yeah, not a very good game to play very drunk, actually, Omaha high-low. Not that I recommend playing any particular poker game drunk. I don't want to get anyone suing me for bad advice. Half a hand here for Richard, ace, queen, 10, 6, suited ace, and an ace-6 low. Not what I call a monster, but still a good hand.
Right.
But they've passed round to him, and he wins it in the big blind.
And shows.
And showing that he had a strong enough hand to play. Just trying to encourage people to do that again. Any uncontested hand is always a welcome present.
So, there we have it, an Englishman, a Russian and a Ukrainian. Find out what happens to them after the break.
And welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. Just to recap, Dave Colclough was our first man out in 8th.
There you see those chips going over. That's Valeri leaving in disgust.
Then we had a double whammy with Yevgeny and David McGeehee getting knocked out in the same hand by Yakov. Quickly followed by Stuart Carnegie, last Scot. He get knocked out by the same man, giving Yakov a very large chip advantage. And that's where we join them, last 3. It's Yakov from the Ukraine, Vladimir from Russia, and Richard Gladding from England. Still with a good lead, Yakov, but still anyone's game. The game's Omaha high-low at the moment. Blinds 3,000, 6,000. And it's up to Vladimir, who's got a nice high-low hand here. He's got an ace-3 low and a suited ace. No, not as nice as Richard's there. He's got aces with an ace-5 low as well. So Vladimir opens for 15,000. Straight all in there from Richard. No messing. Looks like he's got about 38, 40,000 there. Yakov decides to leave him to it. And with 15,000 in the middle, I can't imagine Vladimir passing for the what's left. He knows he's in trouble, but he decides to call anyway.
Someone's going to be moving, isn't they?
It's on their backs. And Richard's in very good shape. Of course, there's always a chance that the ace-3 for Vladimir is going to enable him to get half the pot back. But if he doesn't, he's only actually going to scoop all of it about 37% of the time. Here we go. Queen double deuce. That's a good flop for Richard. Gives him aces and deuces. Also only one low card down there. Now we can't have a low hand. So barring a 3, no 3. And Vladimir will be our third place finisher. And that's the last of the Russians. They started the final table with 3. It's now down to Ukraine and England to find out who can win the extra points for their team.
I wonder if we get a change of nail varnish here, Gary.
Need to get a change of nail varnish.
The dealer.
Is it interfering with your
Yes, it is.
viewing of the cards?
He's back.
Did he have a drink in his hand there, Keith?
I think so. Just snatched off one of the Scots. Do you know, I think he's going to bet with those Ray-Bans.
I don't think they actually play. Very happy after winning the last pot, Richard.
62,000. Look at that.
So, first hand of the heads up. We're still in the Omaha. Both players going to be very happy with how they played so far today. Nice Omaha high hand, not a great Omaha high-low hand. But he puts the pressure straight back on Richard, raises the pot, makes it 18,000 to play. Richard decides to release. And Yakov gets first blood. It's the end of a long day for these two. Both players are going to be very tired.
Doesn't say a lot, does he, Yakov?
Not surprised. So 3-5-7 Jack for Yakov, and Ace King 6-7 for Richard. Better high-low hand there for Richard. Like to see him play a bit more aggressive pre-flop. Still giving a chance for Yakov to improve. Got to put the pressure on him. Be prepared to gamble, especially at this stage.
Sure. Well, we've got a game.
So we're going to see a flop. 12,000 in the middle. Deuce 10-10. No help for either player. He who bets is going to win this one, and it's no one so far. 5. That gives Richard an ace-6 low draw, but it has put Yakov in front with a pair of 5s.
10.
Attempted bluff here from Richard. He's betting 10,000. Knowing he can always improve to make a low if he gets a caller. Yakov's also got a low draw, which is 3 7s, a potential low. Just trying to decide. I think we'll see Yakov release this. Yeah.
Right.
Not really a strong enough hand for Yakov. Good bet there from Richard.
Onwards and upwards. Yakov doesn't appear to have won as many Omaha hands as he did.
Yeah, he was on fire during the 7-card stud, wasn't he? He seems to have gone back a little bit during the Omaha high-low. Richard, on the other hand, has played it very well. Managed to get himself right back into this. Oof. I think we'll see him play this one. Aces 10 Jack. And a low drawing hand here for Richard with 3 4 5 7. This could be an action hand. He hasn't looked yet, Yakov. He's going to be quite happy with what he sees. So, action on Richard. He flat calls on the button. And I'd expect a raise here from Yakov. He makes it 18,000. That's raising the pot. Richard announces call very quickly, and we're going to see a flop with 36,000 in the middle. No low draw, of course, for Yakov. And that's a bad flop for Richard. I don't think he's going to lose too many chips in this pot.
What?
Apart from the 18,000 he already has. Nope, he releases. Yakov picks up another one. Can't afford too many of those, Richard. So the fourth hand heads up. Yakov sitting there with about a 4-1 chip lead over Richard. About 240,000 plays 60. Not much of a high-low hand there. Double suited deuce 4-5-9. Just doubled it, Yakov. Richard calls. Yakov in front for the high. No low draw. Not a very big pair for the high, so he is vulnerable. Second best low for Richard and a flush draw. Oh no, no flush draw.
He's got a good low hand appearing, Richard, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has got a good low draw here. Not the best low draw, but a good low draw. But what he wants is he wants a chance to be able to win the high as well. And he doesn't have that at the moment, but only 8,000. That's a small bet from Yakov. He's not going to scare off Richard with that. So Richard's called. We're going to see a turn. Hits the jack, actually looking for a queen to make a straight up the top. He's now got a pair of jacks rather than a pair of tens, which is what he had beforehand. It might be enough to scare Richard off if he'd have bet, but no, he didn't. He's given him a free card. And it's a small one. It's the 4 of diamonds, which gives Richard a low, but also puts a flush there. So neither player's going to be that enamoured with the last card. We'll just have to see how the action goes. Richard's checked, and so's Yakov, so it's on their backs. It's going to be a split pot. Richard gets the low with his deuce 5. And Yakov takes the high with his pair of jacks. I think he's actually improved on the end and made jacks and 4s. Yep, jacks and 4s for Yakov and a low deuce 5 for Richard. Split pot. The dealer just sorting that out.
Very good band, jacks and 4s.
Yeah, I thought that's what happened when Michael left, actually.
That's exactly what happened. So he's cutting a little bit there, hasn't he? No, not really, not at all.
Yeah, that hand's not really going to change the chip position with it being split. So still a 4-1 chip deficit for Richard. Still, if he doubles up, he'll be right back in it. It'll be 120 plays 180. But needs that double up sometime soon. Pretty ugly looking hand for Yakov. 3-7-9 king. These are the times when I want Richard, if he's got half a hand, to be raising on the button. He's calling too much. Ah, that's definitely a raising hand. And he has. I think he's been listening to me. He makes it 12,000 to play. A bit smaller raise.
I'd be surprised if he got any action here.
Really is not a pretty hand for Yakov. No, he decides to muck. Even for just 6,000 more. Nice pot for Richard. Needs a few more of those. So with that pot, Richard looks a little bit more relaxed. The nice thing about the nature of this tournament, of course, it's not really much to play for until the final day. And with all the camaraderie, it becomes a lot more relaxed spirit than you might find in most of the other poker tournaments. So the boys feel a bit more open to enjoying it rather than the tension of reaching the last two of a major tournament. Yakov with a squeeze. Finds pocket kings. Quite strong from a high point of view. He opens for 18,000. Bit of this and a bit of that for Richard, but not really a lot of anything. Deuce 4 for a low and 10 jack up the top for a straight draw, but he wisely releases. And another pot goes to Yakov.
Richard's hair, Gary. What do you think? Confident?
Yes, it's not. It hasn't really got the sheen it had at the start of the final. You know, he's obviously not looking quite as confident he was at the start. But against Yakov, the shine's definitely there for Yakov. Oh no, that's the glare off his head. 8-10 Jack Queen for Yakov. He's got a very playable Omaha hand. Not much when it comes to the low draw. But if they come high, he's not in bad shape. Richard, 7-9 Jack Ace, another Omaha playable hand. And it looks like he wants to raise this one up. Just finding out what the minimum raise is. He's made it 12,000 to play.
I think Yakov will have a bit of this, Gary.
Yeah, he'll definitely see the flop here, I think. If the cards come high, he's probably going to be all over it, so he wants to see the flop, and I don't blame him. So 24,000 in the middle, and we're going to get to see a flop. And here it is, 7 Queen 5, top pair for Yakov, and middle pair for Richard. Richard having made the pre-flop action. Yakov decides to check to him. Richard checks and we see a turn. It's a 9. Very good card for Yakov. He's now got a straight draw anywhere from a 6 all the way up to a king because of his 8-10 jack to go with his queen. Richard now is actually in front with his 7s and 9s. But there's already a straight draw out there and 2 flush draws, and Richard's got none of it. So
doesn't want to know, does he?
He decides to release, play it safe. And another pot goes to Yakov when he's actually got the worst of it at the time. It's the advantage of having the chips and being the one making the aggression. Keep asking the other player if he wants to commit any of his chips. And he has to have quite a big hand to do so.
I think it's getting near Richard's all-in time, isn't it?
Yeah, he's lost a fair few over the last couple of hands. He's going to have to make a stand sometime soon. Draw a line in the sand. And this could be a hand he's going to do it with. He's got an ace-4 for a low. And a high hand here for Yakov, ace-9-10 jack with a suited ace. Once again, he brings it in for a raise. It's a real strength I've seen of Yakov's game today. If he's going to play, he's bringing it in for a raise, and he's putting the pressure on the other player. If I had to say anything about Richard's game, been very cautious, and that's probably what's got him into this spot and got the points for his team. But he has played a little bit timidly when it's got down to heads up. I'd like to see him do a bit more pre-flop aggression. And this is going to be a flop they're probably both going to want to stick their chips in with. Both flop the ace, 9-10 jack as well for Yakov, so he's got a big straight draw above it. Richard already having a low with the 4-5. It's going to be impossible for him to lose half of the pot. At the moment, they're both chopping the high with ace-jack. But with a 9-10 jack, Yakov's actually got a good straight draw for the top. So he's actually only drawing to try and win half of this pot. But he can afford it, he's got the chips, and if Richard doesn't already have a low locked up, he may think he's drawing for all of it. Nope. He decides not to go for it. Very wise. That's one of the things about Omaha high-low. You could be drawing to try and make a very big hand, but you're only drawing to get half of the pot back, because you know your opponent's already got a made low, and whatever happens, he's going to win the low.
Join us after this break to see if the Ukrainian can polish off the Englishman.
And welcome back to the Partypoker.com European Nations Poker Challenge. I'm Gary Jones, and I'm joined by Keith Koikarp Allen.
Thank you.
Just to recap on what happened earlier, Vladimir was knocked out in third by Richard Gladding. And that's where we join the action between Yakov and Richard. So, still anyone's game?
I think you'd have to put your money on Yakov, really, wouldn't you, Gary?
Yeah, with those chips and his aggressive play before the flop. Unless Richard can flop something soon. I'd have to fancy Yakov to wear him down.
Not the sound he won't.
Nope. Not a time to make a stand there. And just for those at home, Yakov's surname is Nepomniachtchi.
Which is why we call him Yakov.
Yes, it's a bit of a mouthful, that one.
Sounds like a Japanese sushi dish.
Yeah, I'm sure I've ordered that, actually, teppanyaki style sometime.
It's very quiet out there. Do you think the rest of the team players have gone out?
Probably very late in the day now. These boys have been playing all day.
And they've changed back to...
7 stood high-low.
And the red ringed card is the up card for each player.
Right.
Just to remind you at home.
Yakov opened, forced 2 with his 5. Richard raised with the ace, and that takes it. The running ante now 5,000, and a 5,000 force bringing from the low card.
Oh, fine. No, I want to
Which
see.
is why there are no more yellow chips. And there you see Yakov proving me absolutely wrong. He does speak English.
Okay.
Force bringing from Yakov with the 4. Richard Gladding, Queen 10-5. Not much of a hand. Yakov, on the other hand, has a genuine high-low hand. Got Deuce 4-6. The power card there for Richard. Catches the ace. It's a big card at this game. And he tries to represent it. It's basically a bluff, although he is in front. He doesn't actually have the hand he's trying to represent. He'll be pleased to win that one.
He's building quite a nice chip pile there, isn't he, Richard?
Yeah,
or Rick.
It was about a 4-1 disadvantage at the start of this 7 stud round.
I think it is now.
No, it's probably more of a 3-1 chip disadvantage.
The one on Hotel wasn't much of a favourite anyway.
I think he might have heard you.
So 1 double up from Richard, and it's going to be practically even.
The final table.
7 the low card. Force bringing for Richard. You can put 5,000 or 10,000 in. Yakov looks like he wants help. Oh, we've got 2 genuine hands here. We've got 3 to the flush for Yakov and 3 low cards for Richard. Small raise. 5,000 with 10,000. Richard with 3 genuine low cards here. A couple of choices. He's got the more passive one, which is to call. And the raise is what he went for, and we're going to have a hand. It's all in here from Richard.
Okay.
It's going to be on the backs, and we're going to see 7 cards each. If Richard can win this, he's right back in it, and it's going to be practically level. Ace 5-7 versus Ace King 9 of spades. Could do with catching a small card straight away, and he has. That's a very good card for him, and no spade for Yakov. Ace King Queen plays Ace 5, 6, 7, 10. Needs another low card. Pair of kings, pair of 5s. Still needs the low to get a low hand. Can catch a second pair to win it for the high. He gets a low, so it's a chop pot. Pair of kings for Yakov. And a low for Richard. Very nearly out. Needed to catch a card on the river there, Richard. could have scooped the whole thing by making 2 pairs on the end, but he couldn't. And I think he's still a little bit relieved to be in it. So on with the next hand. A little bit of excitement there. Could have been all over. And pocket jacks here for Yakov. I'd expect him to raise and take this one down, especially with Queen 10 in the hole for Richard. Nope, he's decided to make a liar out of me with a flat call. And he's trying to play this one a little bit cagey. Trying to pick up some extra chips.
Par 2 showing there for Rick.
And it may actually work. Richard's probably going to bet this. He has. He's made it 4,000. His traps worked very nicely here, Yakov. Now he decides to raise. Showing he's not afraid to mix it up. Take a few chances. And Rich there mugs his deuces. He knows he's behind. Good play there from Yakov. Shows he's not afraid to mix it up a bit. Didn't raise before the flop as, well, I expected him to with that hand. And caught Richard for an extra 20,000. 4 black chips.
Richard feeling the strain there. You can't get a massage at the table, can't you?
You can, but I don't see we're going to see any of the boys do it for the final. Another pocket pair for Yakov and another forced bring in for Richard. A raise again. Oh, we've got an ace-queen in the hole for Richard. He might play this. At least for another 10,000, just to see what happens on the turn. See if he can catch something to keep interest. But probably not. It's not a very strong hand.
You can go either way, can't you?
Certainly can. Another good laydown from Richard. Definitely one of Richard's skills. He is very patient and happy to wait it out. So another one to Yakov, and Richard starting to feel the strain. Low card again. Richard, of course, the ace counts high when it comes to the bring-in. So the 9 to open
Quite
straight away.
expensive for Richard, that at this stage of the game, isn't it?
Yeah, Richard has to bring it in, and Yakov raises again. Takes down another one. Richard under some real pressure now. He has to find a hand to double up with. The antes are eating him away, as are the forced bring-ins.
He's got an air of resignation about him there.
Yeah, he's already done his job. He's got the points for his team. There's not a massive amount of points difference between first and second, so he can be very pleased with his performance so far. And he can still get lucky. And this might be the hand he's going to try and take his stand with. He's got a pair. He's already had to put 5,000 in from the forced bring-in. Yakov hasn't got much of it, but he knows.
Go on, Richard, all in.
He can put the pressure on Richard. No, he decides to release. Richard wins with the pocket fours, uncontested. He'll be happy with that. The audience clapping. Richard finally winning a pot heads up. Has been a while.
I think it was Stuart just brought around.
So for once, Richard doesn't have the force bring in. Yakov opens for 5,000 with 10-5 deuce, all diamonds. Richard says raise pot, makes it 25,000 to play. Yakov's going to have a squeeze.
Yakov will want a bit of this, won't he? Yeah.
For the amount of chips that Richard's got left, he's probably going to see 7 cards. Just flat calls for now, but I don't think there's going to be much on the card 4 that's going to stop them both putting the last of Richard's chips in. Apart from maybe a 10. For Yakov, that could be the card that Richard really doesn't want to do the last of his chips on, but the pot's so big now, he knows he can't do anything with what's left, so he's just going to throw it in a Very upset kind of manner. At least he's caught a pair of fours, so he's still got chances. So Richard needs to improve, otherwise Yakov's going to win. No help with the 8. Still drawing to 2 pairs. He's got 8s and 4s now. He's in front. It's now Yakov that needs to improve to knock out Richard. That's a 3. No improvement for Richard, but there, it's a 5 for Yakov. 10s and 5s for Yakov, and that's the end of Richard.
Heroic. Very heroic stand.
So he hung on in there very well, Richard. Managed to get himself into 2nd place, but couldn't quite overcome the aggression of Yakov. And Yakov gets the points for Team Ukraine.
Don't forget Richard doing his bit for England.
It's a great result. Weren't really expecting it. But David and I were doing well early. Then towards the final stages, as we got to the final, we were really low chips. So I knocked him out, unfortunately. It was a massive tactical error, but not really used to team strategy. First time in a team, so hopefully in the future we can learn from it.
There's one moment there that was very difficult for him when he had a pair of 4s, but he came through and he was quite lucky. He's been playing for a long time, and that sort of thing doesn't bother him. He's played against people that cover up their emotions, people that can't cover up their emotions, and it doesn't bother him at all.
So, here's the team leaderboard after day 3. And in first position is England, followed by Sweden, Scotland, joint 4th, Ukraine and Russia, 6th, Finland, and bringing up the rear, the Baltic states. Take an absolute miracle for them to show anything tomorrow, Gary, don't you think?
Yeah, they've drifted away from the field really badly, the Baltic states.
And I'd say that any of the top 6 there, anybody could win, really, don't you think?
Yeah, any of those are still in with a good shot tomorrow.
So join us next time for the 4th and final day's play in the European Nations Poker Challenge, when 7 teams will be playing Omaha High for their share of the $105,000 prize money and, of course, the European Nations Trophy.